The first thing Kazu noticed was the blinking red light at the edge of his sight. His health bar was already at 10% and still falling. He lay on a tiny wooden raft, alone on an endless sea. And circling just beyond the planks, a shark's fin traced an unhurried ring around his new prison.
No hammer, no spear, nothing but a plastic hook between me and those teeth.
He gripped the orange hook, a cheap, curved piece of plastic that felt absurdly light against the weight of his situation. A stray plank bobbed past, just beyond reach. With nothing else to try, he flung the hook toward it, putting his whole body into the throw. The hook caught. Its tip sank into the wet wood, the rope snapping taut.
Come on, come on, you piece of driftwood.
The shark chose that moment to attack, surging from below with a mouth wide enough to swallow a man. Instinct took over. Kazu swung the hook, not as a weapon, but as a grapple. The curve snagged the shark's dorsal fin and held. The shark's own thrashing power slammed it into the raft's edge. Wood splintered, the raft tilted, and Kazu clung to the rope, his only lifeline. The shark wrenched free, a gash torn along its dorsal fin. Bleeding confusion more than blood, it dove deep and fled into the abyss.
It's gone, but so is half the raft. One more hit, and I'll be swimming.
The impact had shattered 2 planks, leaving a gaping hole. Seawater lapped at his feet, and the health bar ticked another point lower.
Dehydration will kill me faster than the shark. Find water. Find it now.
Then, among the floating wreckage from the shark's rampage, a wooden barrel bobbed into view. Barnacle encrusted but still sealed. With the last of his strength, Kazu stood and cast the hook again. The orange plastic arced high, a thin line of hope against the sun.
Got it. Now, just a little closer. Don't slip, don't slip.
He hauled the barrel aboard and jammed the hook's curve into the lid's seam. With a grunt, he levered it open, wood groaning in protest.
A torn sail, some rope, no water. Unless I can use this, the hook isn't just for catching things. It can shape, pry, build.
In that moment, the hook became more than a fishing tool. It was a lever, a chisel, a builder's first and only instrument. With each passing minute, Kazu's health bar dipped dangerously low. He had to turn the salvage sail and barrel into a water-making machine, or die trying.
The hook's curve can bite into the grain. If I lever it just right, the plank will split without a saw.
He jammed the orange plastic into the wood and twisted. The plank cracked apart with a satisfying snap. A lever, not a hammer.
Now, the sail. The hook's tip is sharp enough to pierce canvas. I can thread rope through the holes to shape the slope.
He drove the hook through the tough fabric, pulling rope through puncture after puncture. The crude machine began to take shape.
The sun will do the rest. Seawater on the slope, evaporation, condensation, and a drop of drinkable water at the end.
Hours crawled by. Then, from the tip of the canvas, a shimmering droplet formed and fell into the cup with a tiny plink.
Water. It's real. I am not going to die today.
He drank, feeling strength return. The health bar climbed back to 10%, still critical, but stable. But as the sun began to set, a familiar triangular fin sliced through the waves, circling closer once more. The fin was closer now. Carving a silent line through the sunset glow, the shark had returned, and it wasn't leaving.
If it hits the raft again, the patched boards won't hold. I have to stop it before it charges.
Kazu looked at the orange hook in his hand. Its curve had caught the shark before. It could do so again.
But this time, I'll add weight. A barrel tied to the rope will drag it off course. Maybe even tear its fin further.
He lashed the hook's line to a heavy barrel from the debris, then crouched at the raft's edge, waiting. The shark surged upward. Kazu swung the hook, but the creature veered at the last second. The rope scraped his palms raw.
Too slow. I need to read its path. Throw where it will be, not where it is.
He watched the fin's rhythm, the way it banked before each rush. A pattern emerged. As the shark turned for another pass, Kazu hurled the hook ahead of its arc. The curve caught the base of the dorsal fin. The barrel dragged, wrenching the shark sideways. It thrashed, tearing its fin further, then fled into the darkening sea. The shark disappeared into the abyss, but the silence it left behind was heavier than the attack itself. Among the debris scattered by the recent chaos, a barrel drifted closer, its lid cracked open, spilling a journal into the water.
A journal? Someone else was here and didn't make it.
The entries were waterlogged, but one line stood out. The Leviathan is coming. The shark is only its herald.
This shark. It's a minnow compared to what's out there. And I am floating on a toothpick.
Further debris appeared. A torn sail, a broken mast, and a logbook with a map scrawled in the final pages. The floating city is the only refuge. But the channel is patrolled by the beast. No one has made it through.
Then I'll be the first. If there's a city, there's a way.
But the horizon was darkening, and the sea was starting to churn. A storm was brewing, and he had no shelter. As the first raindrops hit, the journal's warning echoed. The Leviathan hunts during storms. The storm exploded with fury. Waves as tall as buildings slammed the raft, ripping planks loose and drenching Kazu in foam.
This raft is about to shatter. I need to anchor it now.
He hurled the hook into the churning sea. The curve caught on a submerged reef, the rope snapping taut as the raft's drift halted. The raft groaned, but held steady against the tempest, anchored by a single plastic hook and a prayer. Then, beneath the surface, a shadow eclipsed the reef. It was vast, serpentine, and it moved with ancient purpose.
So the Leviathan is real, and it's right below me.
The beast circled, its dorsal spines briefly breaking the surface like a row of obsidian knives.
Just a test run. It wants to see if I'll panic.
But as the storm peaked, the anchor line began to fray. The hook's plastic creaked under the impossible strain. A deep vibration shook the raft from below. The Leviathan turned and began its ascend. The raft tilted sharply. As the Leviathan's back rose from the deep, water churning into foaming whirlpools.
No weapon can pierce that hide. I need to distract it. Use its own curiosity against it.
He skewered a strip of raw fish on the hook and hurled it far to the side, the orange plastic glinting in the lightning. The splash drew the creature's attention. Its massive head, covered in barnacle-like scars, turned to investigate. Seizing the moment, Kazu slashed the frayed anchor rope with the hook's edge, freeing the raft from the reef's grip. The storm's fury began to wane, and the first pale light of dawn revealed the beast's silhouette, circling back. But the Leviathan abandoned the false bait, its ancient eyes locking onto the raft once more.
It's learning my tricks. I can't keep this up forever.
His gaze fell on the logbook, open to a page showing a complex trap, a net, a pulley, and the hook as the trigger.
That's it. Turn its own power against it. But I'll need more rope. And a lot of luck.
A fresh cluster of debris surfaced. 3 planks, a barrel, and a coil of rope as thick as his arm. He cast the hook, the orange plastic cutting, a desperate arc against the gray sky.
The iron rings inside the barrel. Perfect for the pulley. I can rig the trigger mechanism now.
His fingers worked with frantic precision, threading the hook through the rope's core as the release catch.
When the Leviathan hits the bait, the hook snaps free. The net drops, and its own thrashing will bind it.
Beneath the raft, he lashed a ring of sharpened stakes, a deadly welcome for anything that came from below. Then the water shivered. The Leviathan's fin sliced the surface, 100 meters and closing.
It's coming. I am not finished. I need more time.
He grabbed a fish, impaled it on the hook, and threw it starboard, a desperate sacrifice to buy seconds. The Leviathan ignored the offering, its massive head pushing a wave ahead as it rammed the raft's side. The impact sent Kazu sprawling. Planks shattered, and a wave of seawater washed over the deck, sweeping his precious solar still toward the edge.
No. Without that still, I'll die of thirst. I can't let it go.
He lunged, the hook in his hand, and snagged the rim of the drifting device just before it toppled into the sea.
Got it. But the trap's trigger line, it snapped when I fell.
He looked at the broken rope, then at the Leviathan circling for another charge. There was no time to repair it.
Then I'll have to be the trigger. Use my own weight to spring the trap.
He lashed the hook's line around his waist and crouched at the raft's edge, the bait in his other hand. The Leviathan roared forward, a living wall of muscle and rage. Kazu held his ground until the last possible second.
Come on, right here. You oversized lizard.
The beast's jaws snapped shut on the bait. The hook embedded in its lip, the rope went taut, and the net dropped, but the Leviathan tore through one corner. The rope went taut, yanking Kazu off his feet. He slammed onto the splintered planks, the hook line burning through his waist.
If it dives now, I am going in with it. Anchor. 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 Where's a hold?
He jammed the hook into a gap between the planks, the plastic curving under the strain, but holding firm. The Leviathan thrashed, half bound by the torn net, but the raft lurched with every convulsion, nearly capsizing.
The hook's cracking. I can feel the hairline fractures spreading under my fingers.
Then he saw it among the debris, a barrel painted with a faded red circle. Bobbing just beyond the thrashing, the logbook had mentioned a circle symbol, a warning to other survivors about the Leviathan's hunting ground.
That symbol. It's not just a marker. There's something inside for a trap, a last resort.
With the hook still anchored, he cast a loose rope and snagged the barrel, reeling it in with desperate energy. As he pried the lid open, the Leviathan charged again, but this time Kazu didn't brace. He was ready to test whatever secret the barrel held. Inside, the lid seal broke with a crack, revealing not a spearhead or a blade, but a metallic cylinder and a waterproof pouch. From the pouch, he pulled a note, the ink smeared but legible, written in the same desperate hand as the journal. The city is a lie, a processing facility. They sent us out in rafts to be hunted, their Leviathan hurting the weak. Resist. Build something new.
A lie. The whole city is a trap. Then everything I've been sailing toward is a death sentence.
The Leviathan charged, but the cylinder emitted a piercing shriek that made the beast recoil, thrashing in confusion. Kazu understood. It was a sonar emitter, designed to repel the creature. But its power flickered, dying.
They wanted me to take the weapon, to fight. But I already have a better way. I have this hook.
He ripped the emitter from its slot and tossed it overboard. The Leviathan's thrashing subsided, its ancient eyes regaining focus. He looked toward the horizon, where the floating city's lights glinted like a lure, and then turned away.
I don't need your city. I'll build my own empire, plank by plank by plank, with this hook as my only tool.
The Leviathan surfaced again, its scarred hide oozing where the net had torn. But it didn't charge. It circled, patient and calculating.
It's learning. But so am I. Every plank I add makes me harder to swallow.
He cast the hook at a passing barrel, snagged it, and rigged a pulley system. Plank by plank, the raft grew upward and outward, splitting wood with the hook's curve. He shaped new planks from debris, lashing them into a sturdy second level. He filled a halved barrel with salvaged seaweed and planted the seeds from the earlier cache, a garden to anchor his empire. As he worked, the Leviathan's fin sliced the water closer, a reminder that safety was an illusion.
I can't fight it head on, but I can lead it on a chase. A lure far enough away to buy me days.
He secured a chunk of meat to a buoy with the hook and rope, then hurled it far outside the raft's perimeter. The Leviathan veered, chasing the bobbing bait, its massive tail churning the water as it swam away. But on the horizon, a dark dot grew, a small boat with a searchlight sweeping the waves. The city was coming.
They're hunting survivors. If they find me, I'll be processed just like the others.
He grabbed a torn sail and the hook, quickly draping the canvas over his garden and hauling the raft's profile low. The boat's searchlight sliced through the dawn mist, sweeping past the raft, missing it by meters. In the distance, the Leviathan's thrashing drew their attention. The boat changed course, following the sound. Through the fog, a megaphone crackled. Stray Raft detected. Heard it to Sector 7 for processing.
Sector 7. That's where they funnel survivors. The beast is their herding dog, and I am the cattle.
The boat disappeared into the mist, but its searchlight had left a lasting scar on the raft's planks, a mark of the hunters.
I won't be anyone's raw material. I am not a weapon, but I'll be the barb that breaks their machine.
He began to sketch a plan on a scrap of wood with charcoal, a network of rafts, each armed with simple hooks and pulleys, a floating fortress. But the water around the raft began to churn. The Leviathan had returned, its triangular fin cutting a slow, deliberate circle. The Leviathan rose again, water cascading off its scarred snout. Kazu saw the hook's hairline cracks, a web of plastic fatigue.
One more hard pull, and it will snap. No hook means no building, no catching, no empire. Then I'll give it a last mission. Lead the beast far, far away, even if I never see it again.
He lashed the hook to a buoy with thick rope and skewered a fish onto it. A final offering to the sea. He held the assembly over the water, the raft shuddering as the Leviathan circled. His garden would be undefended.
Everything I built rests on this plastic. I can rebuild the raft. I can't rebuild the raft. I can't rebuild my will if I lose this.
With a guttural cry, he hurled the buoy as far as his worn muscles could manage. The orange hook arced a final, brilliant streak. The Leviathan veered, chasing the bobbing bait. But then, a familiar shape surfaced on the other side of the raft. The herald shark had returned, attracted by the frenzy. Now Kazu had no hook to snag it, no defense but the splintered stakes. A sudden jolt rocked the raft from beneath, as if something massive had bumped the keel. The herald shark circled back, its fin carving the water. Smaller than the Leviathan, but just as hungry, he scanned the raft. The sharpened stakes still ringed the edges like a deadly porcupine. A desperate idea sparked.
I'll bait it onto the spikes, turn its own charge into its death.
He tied a fish to a plank with rope. Then, with a gasp, he sliced his palm on a rusty nail and smeared blood across the bait.
Come on, right here, you bottom feeder.
He dangled the bleeding plank at the edge. The shark locked on and charged jaws wide, water spraying. Kazu yanked the bait back. The shark's momentum drove it onto the splintered stakes, impaling its gills in a cloud of blood. The raft lurched. The shark's tail smashed the garden barrel. Soil and green sprouts scattered into the churning sea.
My garden, gone. But the raft still floats. A bitter trade, but I am still breathing.
The shark went still. Then, from the abyss, a low rumble vibrated through the planks. The Leviathan was coming back.
The hook is gone. But this dead shark has teeth. Razor-sharp, ready-made points.
He gripped a tooth with his bleeding palm and yanked. It came free with an ugly crack, serrated edges perfect for a new hook. He lashed the tooth to a rope with sinew from the shark's carcass, threading it through a hole he'd punched with a nail.
Not orange plastic, but it'll do. A hook born from a killer. Fitting.
The rumble became a roar. The Leviathan's massive fin split the water, its scarred snout rising like a haunted island. Kazu climbed to the upper level, his new hook tethered to a thick rope. He'd use the beast's own momentum against it, one last time.
This tooth will pierce just behind the old scar. Then the rope pulls, and its own thrashing will tear it open.
The Leviathan lunged, mouth spanning the width of the raft. Kazu threw himself flat and cast the hook upward at its snout. The tooth caught in the healed-over wound, sinking deep. The rope snapped taut, and the Leviathan's own recoil tore the scar open. The beast screamed, thrashing. The raft lifted high, then crashed down. Kazu held the rope with both hands, his feet sliding toward the edge. The raft's upper platform groaned, planks creaking as the rope sawed through the wood.
If I cut the rope, The beast escapes. If I hold, the raft splits in half.
The storage crates tumbled. The solar still slid. His home was coming apart. Plank by plank, the mast splintered, a sharp crack of breaking wood.
Then let the beast have this raft. I'll turn the bones of my empire into its cage.
He jammed the rope end into a crack on the falling mast, then grabbed the heavy iron ring from the anchor. The mast toppled, the rope yanking the Leviathan's snout down. The beast's head slammed into the wreckage. Planks and spikes splintered against the creature's skull. Kazu leaped for a floating barrel, the raft breaking apart beneath him. He clung to the barrel, watching the Leviathan convulse among the shattered planks of his home. Blood clouded the water. The Leviathan gave one final shudder, then went still. But Kazu had no raft, no water, no shelter, only a tooth hook and a broken empire. Kazu scanned the debris field. Planks, barrels, torn sails, all the scattered bones of his shattered raft.
The tooth is sharper than plastic. I can snag, pull, shape, and this time build something that can't be broken.
He cast the tooth hook with a surgeon's precision, snagging a drifting plank on the first throw. Plank by plank, he hauled debris onto a captured barrel, lashing them with salvaged rope until a tiny deck emerged.
A 2x2 raft, just like the start. But this time, I am not a scared kid. I am a builder.
He stitched a torn sail with the tooth point, then rigged it to a crude pole, catching the first steady wind in days. The sail filled. The tiny raft moved, not aimlessly, but toward a distant cluster of floating barrels he'd spotted. As he drew closer, he saw not just barrels, but connected platforms, a fledgling community of survivors who had escaped the city. Kazu steered toward them. He would share what he learned, that with a simple hook, anyone could build an empire.
No hammer, no spear, just a hook and the will to never give up. That's how you beat the ocean.
Kazu's raft bumped the dock. Eyes wide, the survivors saw the shark tooth hook dangling from his belt.
I can show you how to build without weapons. This hook is all you need to turn trash into walls.
He bent, using the hook's curve to pry a rusted nail from a plank, then hammered it flat with a stone. By sunset, a dozen survivors were carving their own hooks, a chorus of scraping filling the air. The floating platforms grew, lashed together with rope and hooks, a lattice of reclaimed hope.
A tool that builds, not destroys. That's the secret.
He led them to catch rainwater with stretched canvas, using the hook as a needle to stitch collection basins. Word spread on the currents. Other escapees sailed in, bringing nothing but their will to learn. Kazu stood on the highest platform, the tooth hook raised, a city of survivors cheering below. And so, an empire rose from the sea, built not on hammers and spears, but on a single unbreakable idea. The floating empire thrived. Children learned to fish with carved hooks before they could walk, and every plank bore the tooth of a dead predator. A young girl approached Kazu, her eyes wide. In her small hands was a shark tooth hook, freshly carved.
Perfect. Now watch. The hook isn't for hurting. It's for pulling, holding, building.
In the distance, a derelict boat from the city drifted past, empty and abandoned, its hunters long gone. Kazu stood at the edge of the main platform, watching the endless blue. In his palm lay the original plastic hook, found in the wreckage.
All of this started with a piece of plastic, a curved sliver of nothing, and yet it gave me everything.
He tied the orange hook to a leather cord and placed it around the neck of the first child born in the Empire.
This hook is a promise. No weapons, no cages, only tools to make your own world.
The Empire's flag bore not a sword or a cross, but a simple orange hook, a symbol of building without breaking. And in every plank, every join, every curious eye turned to the sea. The hook's legacy endured. Years passed. Kazu's hair grayed, but his eyes held the same fierce light.
The hook taught me something the world had forgotten. The strongest tool isn't the one that breaks, but the one that holds.
Around him, Children played on buoy-swinging ropes, their own hooks clinking softly. As they climbed, with practiced ease, he carved a new tooth for a boy who'd lost his, a gift without a word.
Remember, strength isn't in the tool. It's in knowing what to pull toward you and what to let drift away.
The empire stretched to the horizon, but it still moved with the current, forever growing, but never grasping. In a quiet moment, Kazu held the original orange hook, its plastic yellowed with age, but its curve still true.
One hook, 0 hammers, and a life worth living. That was my victory.
The sea whispered its ancient song, and the hook's legacy echoed in every wave that lapped against the floating city. And Kazu, the boy who turned a piece of trash into a crown, simply watched, knowing the ocean had finally been beaten. Kazu turned from the sea, a gentle smile on his lined face.
It was never about fighting the sea. It was about learning to float on it.
He walked through the bustling platforms, children trailing him like ducklings. At the heart of the empire, he laid the orange hook on a simple stone altar, carved from a leviathan tooth.
This hook is just a piece of plastic. But what we build with our hands, that's what makes us people.
The sun set, and the hook caught the last rays, glowing like a tiny orange star. Above, the empire's flag bore the symbol of that hook, a promise to build, never to break. The ocean would always be there, but it was no longer an enemy. It was the foundation of everything they had become. In its curved surface, one could see the reflection of the empire, a world born from one man's refusal to craft a single weapon. And somewhere, in the quiet lapping of the waves, the ocean seemed to bow its head in respect.